Welcome to,
But that's
but
not
that's not
important
important right
right
now.
now. Why is it the start of a new year, Ian Reed? Start of a bloody new year, and we still can't talk in sync. What the hell is that all about? Happy New Year, by the way.
Happy New Year. Happy New Year to all our listeners. I'm
Happy
sorry,
yes, Happy New Year
John.
to you guys listening.
I'm
Yes,
sorry, John. I
don't be.
I don't know. I don't know when it is not in vogue to say Happy New Year. When do you stop saying Happy New Year?
I think you stop saying Happy New Year by about, let's see. You see, by the 16th of January, you stop saying Happy New Year. Because,
All
oh
right.
God, I mean, for me, that is it. That's a cutoff point,
All right.
right?
So
Yeah.
this episode will be coming out on
This will
Monday.
come out
Today's what,
on
Wednesday?
Monday. Okay, so this is Wednesday, so it's coming out on the 17th, I think it is 17th.
Right. So
Yeah.
officially, according to your cutoff point, we should not say Happy New Year.
Well,
But
we're saying
but
it
we
now.
will say we'll say it now. But
For
you
creative
all know
license.
what we mean.
We know,
You all
yes,
know what we mean.
exactly.
All right. So we hope. Now the reason why we don't sync is because Zoom has a delay. There's
Ah,
a
that's why.
delay between you and I when you hear me and when I talk. You know
Yes,
about these things. You know,
I do.
it's so it's not like live TV where you have the little 5 second delay to stop the movies from
There,
showing
there we go.
or the M&Ms from making the FU comments, so you can block it out. It's not like that. It's the nature of the technology. So we will continue to be out of sync for our welcome to, but that's our point right
Indeed.
now. So the hell with all here, we're just going to do it whatever we feel like.
Yeah, what was
This
doing? Yes.
is season 3.
Season 3. Good
This is
Lord.
season 3. So we
Season 3.
encourage you,
What
if
the
you
hell?
are now joining us, my
There's
name is
season
Ian
3.
Reed,
And my name is Jared Butts.
and we talk
Yes, that is
about,
my real name, by the way.
yes,
So, yes. So, you're probably wondering, what does this have to do with advertising? Well, let's just say this, that Ian and I spend a significant amount of time working at a particular agency that shall remain nameless. And right now, Ian is working on a particular project. He's his own, he's pretty much his own boss, I guess. And I decided that after being a senior writer for 8.5 years, from 2007 to 2015, I figured, let me reconnect with my roots, and my roots happen to be in radio. So at the moment, I'm doing 2 radio shows. One in the morning from 6 to 9 a.m. That's my regular time slot, and I'm doing another show from 3 to 6 p.m. But that's only because I'm just filling in for the other guy who's not feeling
yeah,
well.
that's a
So,
temporary thing. That's a temporary thing.
so that's a temporary thing.
But we're glad
So yeah,
because both times are traffic times. So,
both times are happen to be prime time in terms of radio, in terms of gaining particular, gaining listenership,
are you
especially
going
when
to be the person you're replacing? I think his name is Luis Hart. Are you
that's
going
correct.
to be as perverse as Luis?
No, I would love to be. I would love to be. Don't get me wrong. I would love to be as perverse as Luis, but that is not going to happen. I too have a warped imagination,
I know
but
you
I
do,
think,
but the point is, I think because of the time slot in the afternoon,
yeah, yeah,
we would listen to Louis Hart for more than 20 something years. I mean, his man
yeah,
is an institution. Um, I
yes.
always wondered if you could at least try to to tell some of the stupid jokes that he does tell. At least
Well,
once or
I would,
twice.
like I said, I would. You see, the thing about it is, I am not Luis, and Luis isn't
Yeah,
me.
yeah,
So
yeah,
I try my best to not be anything like him. I mean,
yeah.
like I said, the potential for me to be like him is there, but at the same time, I would feel a heck of a lot more comfortable. I mean, this is a guy who once said Godzilla has a phallic complex. because he wants to go after the Empire State Building. And I asked him, wait a minute, that's not Godzilla, that's King Kong. Because you all know that King Kong, for those of you guys out there who happen to be fans of classic films, we all know, that King Kong was a guy who climbed the Empire State Building, with his his captive lady, and yeah, and of course the plane shot him down. Spoiler alert: they kill the poor guy. But no, Godzilla. But then and he
Can you say
ripped.
he ejaculated from the building? That's terrible.
Now you see, I've known Luis for a long time. I've worked with Luis for a long time, and I don't think I've ever heard him say anything that bad. I think I could put my head on a chopping block and say that. People have asked, and this is interesting. People have asked me in particular, you know, how come you and Luis don't do a show together? And
Yeah.
I'm thinking, no,
Yeah.
because
I don't think so. Wouldn't be a
it's
good idea.
not it's not a good idea
Yeah.
because I could never be the yin to Luis's yang.
Yeah. You know, a straight person. What's his name when he moves over? Who does the show before?
That
Who's the
would be
guy who
Mike
does
Ross.
right?
Mike
Mike
Ross.
Ross is a straight guy, right?
Mike Ross is
So
a straight guy. Yep.
when Mike and Luis come on together, it's actually not bad because Mike and Luis have a nice little
Yeah.
tete-a-tete going.
Rapport.
Mike
Right.
is a straight. Mike is a straight. I use the word straight in the classic sense, not in the new sense, right? Yeah, Mike
Straight man
and
in terms of comedy, in terms of
yeah,
traditional comedy.
in terms of presentation,
Yeah.
he's a serious guy. Mike is a walking encyclopedia of music knowledge, and Luis is just wildness. Anyway,
Luis is just what?
we don't want to move too far off the topic. So just so people who are still listening to us who have not signed off because shit, this is not what I came here to listen to. We If you haven't listened to us before, you can listen to seasons 1 and 2, which is something we started last year. Um, in the beginning, in the middle of the what we now call the pandemic, because we wanted to try to not just connect and keep ourselves sane or whatever, but we wanted to tell some stories. And
Right.
to people who don't know, and a lot of the inspiration from this came from me watching Mad Men and thinking, shit, I live. And my friend Jamil is like, oh, I hate that. I hate that Mad Men. I'm like, what the hell is wrong with you? But then I understood people don't understand. They didn't understand the environment, and they don't
Mhm.
understand, the what went on. And I think when we were in it, we experienced it. And now it's stories that we would like to relate to people because we think it's goddamn funny. It's hilarious. And our mutual friend, Jason Dukaran, who was also on one of our earlier shows,
Yes.
Jason is a tech writer. Jason pointed me to a really funny Reddit. Now, I don't really use Reddit that much, but I've been starting to use it a lot recently.
Yeah.
What was the name of that thing pointed me to? If I find it. Yeah, it's called Anti-Work, r/Anti-Work. And
Right.
basically he
Right.
reads it to me, it's sanity. And a lot of it is about your boss relation to the employee. And essentially, working in an agency and advertising is similar to these kind of stories where you have the situation of you have a boss who's telling you what to do. You don't entirely agree with what he wants to do, but you do
Mhm.
it anyway. And
Yeah.
all hell when shit breaks loose. And then he turns around and says, well, why didn't do it your way? And those kind of things. So that's it. People who have no experience of working in advertising, if you all are listening, it's just like working in any other company. It's just you're dealing with mad people, more mad people than usual, because creative people like Jared and myself,
Yeah.
I mean, we've thrown things, we've written things on walls. We've thrown things at walls. We've thrown things at each other. We've done
Yes.
things that no normal human being in a normal company. I mean, God forbid you do this stuff in a bank. They would escort you off the premises immediately. They would throw your ass in jail. You know, so many things we tell each other, so many things we tell other people, some things people tell us. You'd be like, why haven't none of us ever been fired for some of the shit that we've done? And it does happen in some agencies, it does happen, in companies, but the kind of things that we got away with at the agency is you know, it's fun stories. So you could go back and listen to some of the previous episodes and get caught up. I mean, this will be here waiting for you. But what
Sure.
we want to do today is we want to kind of talk about the gap where we left off between Christmas and now, and then a kind of little review. I know y'all probably are all sick of reviews of 2021. You don't even hear about 2021 anymore.
Nobody wants to hear about 2021 because 2021 for a lot of people was an annus horribilis.
Yeah,
It was just
2016 version 2. I think somebody called it
oh my
that.
God. 2016. 2016 is like a child
Yeah,
compared to 20.
I call that the demo. That was the demo. The
Yeah.
demo.
2016 was I think there are people who would say, God, I wish you could get back to 2016. Because
Yeah,
in 2016, yeah, because in 2016, there were a lot of celebrity deaths: Muhammad Ali, George Michael, Carrie Fisher, and so on. But this one, oh my God! And at the
somebody
very
said
end,
somebody said that it all started with the death of Harambe,
which is the gorilla.
which is the gorilla, and that
Yeah.
that is sparked the conspiracy theory that is the gorilla that started it all.
But why? Okay, you see now this is the second reference to a
Harambe
simian.
lives. Harambe lives.
This is the second reference to a simian. You realize that, right? First it's King Kong, now it's Harambe. I'm
Yeah,
detecting a
we're
trend
just
here.
monkeying around. Yeah, we need to
Yeah.
stop monkeying
Ah,
around. Oh
don't need
my
to go ape
God.
shit on me, Ian. Come on.
That's terrible. I I chimpanzee you.
From
Chimpanzee to
chimpanzee to
chimpanzee.
chimpanzee. Oh, good
Get
God.
your hands off of me, you filthy dirty ape.
Hey, oh, you see,
The
this is
other thing is,
yeah. Oh, but 2022, the year of soil and green.
yes, that's what they've been saying. Yes, to go. We both Jared and I are very good, are very, um, film buffs, and one of the
Yeah.
films that we have a great thing together. Our Twitter exchange today was hilarious with Star Trek.
With Star Trek. Yes,
Yeah,
yes, yes.
yeah.
Yeah,
You like it. You love Italian.
and so do you. See,
See,
yes.
right?
We're
Because
just
I'm
crazy
pretty
people.
sure all of our followers are like, "What the hell are they talking about?" But yeah, today this year is supposed to be Soylent Green year. Now there
The
is
year
a
of the
product.
year of soil and green. Mhm.
There is a product called Soylent Green. You know that,
There
right?
is. Yes, I do.
Yeah,
Yes, I
and
do.
I can't believe it. I
And
still
apparently,
can't believe that these people are selling this thing.
and
I
I think
thought it would have.
it's plant based. But the premise behind the movie is this. Uh, Now the movie is centered in New York City, and New York City has a population in 2020 in the 1973 film. The population of New York City is bursting at the seams. 40 million people, and food is getting to be scarce. So this company, this huge conglomerate, has a food alternative called Soylent Green. And there are people who think that Soylent Green is made of plankton and it's a plant based food. But the reality of the situation, if you've never seen the movie, you should, because the ending is quite chilling when you think about it.
Yes, there's a twist at the end, but
It's
they,
very
they
it's a Mhm.
but this guy, this is his last film.
Edward G.
Old
Robinson.
guy, and
Yeah,
it was
Edward G. Robinson.
and it was a great scene. There was a
Yes.
great scene where they ate real food for the, you know,
Yes.
they had this
That's
meal
correct.
together,
That's
and
correct.
that was a great scene. But yeah, I mean, I don't necessarily believe that we're in the year of sovereignty. I don't I don't think so. I think we're still in the year of Mad Max in a way, because we still have a lot of crazy people, crazy fundamentalist people running around.
Hmm.
But that's not important right now.
No, it's not
Um,
important right now.
but let's go back to 2021 a little bit and talk about the advertising. Um, what what we want to talk about later on in the season is we want to bring in some people to talk about or we do that from time to time. We bring in people. We talk about the political advertising that occurred for the Tobago elections
Yes.
at the end of 2021. I mean,
Bigger
we
House
just
of
kind of
Assembly election.
yeah,
Yeah.
we just kind of mention it here because they spent a shitload of money.
A ton load of cash.
Yeah,
A
and they
ton load of
lost.
cash. To just I think it was a case of the ruling party throwing everything, including the kitchen sink, hoping to get some degree of traction because it's felt that. But you see, the thing about it is, the thing that people tend to forget is you could spend millions upon millions of dollars, have the best people come up with the catchiest lines, and you're selling the product. And if people are not, and no matter what you do, people are not going to buy it. They're just not going to do it because they don't trust. That level of trust is not there. Why did they gravitate towards a party that was relatively new? It's been around, I think, for like what, for about 5 or 6 years now. And they had and they operated on a shoestring budget, really. They didn't have the kind of reach that the ruling party had. They didn't have the kind of influence that the ruling party had. They certainly didn't have the kind of money that the ruling party had. And yet, they were able to achieve the unthinkable. They won 14 of the 15 seats. And keep in mind too that this ruling party spent not just money on advertising, but came up with all sorts of fantastic offers, um, hampers, housing, free housing, that kind of thing. Figuring
They
that this
call
is
what they call political goodies. The
yeah,
goodies.
political goodies in the season. But our Tobagonian brothers and sisters were not having it. They
Yeah,
simply were not having it, and they said, "To hell with you," and they
yeah,
went with the other, which is again, it's breathtaking when you think about it.
yeah.
Um, but you see, the thing about it is, it's one thing to have the reach and a war chest in terms of getting the message across. But the reality of the situation is, if people look at that and they were able to see right through it, they're just going to say, "Forget you. We're going to go with this guy instead."
Yeah.
Because, and I think it's also, and you see, the thing about advertising is that sometimes, and this is especially true of political advertising, we can go back to 2016. We can go back to 2016 when, uh, if we believed, but then we're going to have to talk about polling in the U.S. election. We're going to have to say how the polls predicted this was going to happen, and it didn't happen that way at all. But of course, she did win the popular. Hillary Clinton did win the popular vote, but Trump, Trump's
Let's
win,
not even talk. Yeah, let's not even talk about Trump's loss, which has
yeah,
caused nearly, in my mind,
uh huh,
nearly very close to, I wouldn't call it civil war, but
yeah,
some sort of civil unrest. We were on the cusp of seeing the United States implode. And and that's it's coming down to now to people saying that that wasn't an insurrection. You know, an insurrection was what we saw in Iran, not Iran, Afghanistan when
yeah,
they left. You know, that
yeah,
that was an insurrection. No, dude. This thing, this thing, if the person in question didn't do, I mean, we don't want to talk politics in this podcast,
Yeah.
but just to say that I saw all of the political advertising for both parties, and it turned me off. Both parties.
Right.
And
Right.
I would be open and honest and say Kamala Harris rubs me the wrong way. I don't know why she just
Okay.
does. And
Okay.
I'm sorry. And I'm not a supporter of Ocasio-Cortez either. I think
Okay.
she has some very, very, very strange and weird ideas of things. But that doesn't mean that I'm completely like, oh my God, Trump really did win the election. Absolutely not. So that's not what I'm saying. But again, what I said is I looked at both sides of the equation and I'm like, everybody's wrong. Everybody's wrong. This whole thing is wrong. Everything is
So
wrong. But
so
coming back to
yeah.
our local election situation,
Yes.
all the advertising that they spent, all the money that they spent, everything that they pumped into getting people to want to go and vote for them really didn't make a difference because people's minds were already made up. You see?
Exactly.
And now we're living in a situation, and this is just not political advertising. This is brand, this is brand um, loyalty, right?
Yeah.
So how do you get as a brand? How do you get the person to switch? And the managing director of the agency, he always said so. He says, "How are you going to get somebody who swears by drinking Pepsi to try Coke? That one guy. How are you going to get that one guy?" And in the 80s and 90s, it wasn't such a big deal. You know, you do a little bit of gimmick, you get Michael
Yeah.
Jackson to burn his hair off or something, and people would like, okay, maybe I should just try it. I think we're in a situation now where people have made brands so much part of their life. It's almost religion. I wouldn't even call it religion, not yet, with maybe a little bit of a cult following. And social
Yeah.
media has a lot to do with this. And we've mentioned this before, that social media has come to the point where um, it has really polarized the positioning. You're either this or you're not, or you're either that or this. And that's wrong, absolutely wrong to say. I don't think anybody should always say I am this and not that. You should at least try to be middle ground, but you get cussed for that too. But the thing about
I
it
would.
is,
Okay. Mm-hmm.
the thing is, what I'm saying is that to change somebody's mind now is harder than ever. And I'm seeing it every day, and not just for in the case of how things are now, but if an influencer on Instagram tells you to go and try Clark shoes because they wear it, I'll be like, no, I'm not going to do that. I like wearing this kind of shoe, and I'll buy this shoe for whatever reason. And there's no tangible reason to come back to the political party in Tobago. There's no tangible reason why you should get me to vote for you after everything that you've done that proves to me that I shouldn't. You see? So it's very, very difficult now more than ever to get people to switch. You see?
I think.
I don't know if
Okay.
I don't know if you agree with that.
So you're saying that it was difficult to get people to switch, and yet, how is it that you could have in January of 2021 a 6-6 deadlock, and then all of a sudden they said, "Wait a minute. Well, we can't exactly, share the spoils with the opposition, with the opposing side. So what we're going to do is that we're going to alter it in such a way that instead of having 12 seats, we're going to have 15." So the,
Yeah.
the premise was, if you had these 6 seats, in addition to the 9, the other party would win the 6 seats, and the ruling party would win 9, and they're home free. But it didn't turn out that way,
Mhm.
because those three additional seats, which were supposed to be strongholds, switched. What made the switch? Was it okay? Was it brand fatigue? Was it based on the reputation of the brand? And did the reputation of the brand suffer? as a result? Is it that the brand failed to deliver what it had promised? Because you see, it's one thing to be loyal to a brand, but it's another thing to have blind loyalty to a brand. If one day I got up and I said, I love Coca Cola more than anything in the world, and I'm just using Coca Cola as a random example. I'm not saying yay or nay. You enjoy Coca Cola, you love Coca Cola, and then all of a sudden, somebody tampered with the formula. I know it's a new Coke kind of thing, but I'm not even going there. For some reason, it just does not deliver the way you want it
Yeah.
to deliver.
They had a bad experience. Maybe the Coke you drank was flat.
And maybe the Coke
You
you
know?
drank was flat.
Yeah, it's
And
as simple as
and
that. Yeah.
and something like that could make you say, well, you know what? I've had it. I am tired of this.
Yeah.
And you see the thing about it too is it has to be a kind of like a consistent sort of disappointment, consistent level of disappointment. If you're being consistently disappointed with this brand that you supported all, okay, forget Coke. What about a telecommunications brand, for example? You supported it because you think it's homegrown. You support it because the service is efficient. You support it because whatever reason you're supporting it, and then all of a sudden there are glitches in the matrix, so to speak. You can't make calls the way you used to. Your internet speed is at a snail's pace. You've seen continents drift faster than this, and you're just saying to yourself, why should I have to be burdened by this? I don't need this in my life. So you decide to try something new. Another telecommunications company opens up, and they're saying, well, hey, you know what, we are not going to do what the other telecommunications company did. We are going to change things up a bit.
Yeah.
And once you, if you haven't tried this before, maybe you should. Maybe you should.
Yeah.
And if you don't
Yeah.
like it, you can always go back to where you were before. But once you tell the customer that you say, well, look, we can't promise you this, but we're going to do our best. You promise little, but you deliver more. If you promise little and you deliver more, or promise less and deliver more, you are going to generate a lot of brand loyalty. And it'll be highly unlikely before they switch to the brand that they previously supported.
Yeah.
So it's a question of delivery. It's a question of performance, and then you can say, well, okay, fine, I'm going to stay with you guys now. Forget the other brand. This other brand
Yeah.
isn't.
Yeah. It's not as clear cut as that, but I see where you're going with it. Like, for
So
example, right now, I am with the Green Network. The Green Network's last Christmas campaign seemed to me a complete and total failure. I'm sorry. The the campaign was nonsense, pure and utter rubbish. It
I
said
would say
nothing. Uh-huh.
I would say that the campaign is I wouldn't necessarily call it rubbish because it was well done to a point. It was forgettable.
Mhm.
It's
No, but it's
forgettable.
not. The reason I'm saying that is because there is nothing about it. To come back to what you said, to give me reason if I'm on another network to come to your network. You see, all it's really doing is pandering to its existing base, right? Because the
Right.
existing base is this, right? So
Yeah.
they're doing what they normally do, which is okay, fine. But there's no reason for me if I'm on the other network. I actually could say the same about the other network. The other network, I didn't see anything at all from them, and the smattering of things that I saw from them didn't impress me either. So they have no reason for me to even switch from the green network to the red network, for example. So the either one works vice versa. So I'm just here. You haven't gotten me to increase my plans. The other
Mhm.
network hasn't successfully given me a reason to switch. And I don't know how many people. So coming back to spending lots of money on an ad campaign, the Green Network probably spent in excess of $2 to $3 million on a campaign.
Right.
What are the results? We never see the results. Even when we were at the agency, we never really see the results.
That's
They
true.
always come back and say, now, this is why when you work for an international company like Nestle used to come back with results and say, look, we got sales and blah, blah, blah. But still, it's still working with a kind of monopoly situation. They really haven't big, we're really not really worried too much about the competition. The competition isn't breathing down their neck. But at the same time, you don't really see you run the campaign, you spend $2 million, everybody goes home, you see hand for Christmas and the pasta, and come back out in January and somebody asks a question, so how do we do? And people just kind of scratch their heads and go, yeah, we have Carnival coming up, next campaign. Like, okay, so we didn't learn anything. We didn't analyze anything. We didn't see what didn't work. And we're right back to square one. We start now, there's no carnival this year. So again, the season that is for, they're going to have to do something. They're
Yeah.
probably going to do some kind of tabanka. And for people who
Mhm.
don't know what a tabanka is, what's a tabanka, Jared?
A tabanka is a feeling that you experience when your girlfriend or boyfriend, wife or husband, if there's been a break in the relationship, and there's no and that's the feeling you get, feelings of hurt, rejection, despair. That it's like a feeling brought on by that, by the breakup of a relationship. But that's not important right now.
That's not important right now. But what I mean is that people are pining for, one of my clients is really, really pining for Carnival because she needs that escape and that release or whatever. And there isn't going to be any. And so a lot of these companies are going to be running Carnival to Banker
Right.
campaigns, right? You're missing Carnival, come and take this or whatever. But again, that you're really not seeing the opportunities or maybe there's something else you could do. I don't know. But again,
You know,
what I'm
you
saying
know what I think it
is
is?
that we spend all this money every
Mhm.
season, Christmas, Carnival,
Yeah.
Easter,
Yeah.
what is it? We call it long vacation, but it's the
The July August vacation. Yeah.
July, August, quote unquote summer. We don't have no
Quote
summer
unquote.
here, but
No,
we
not in
call it
this part
that.
of the world.
And then rolls right back into Christmas again. Christmas starts
Yeah.
in November or whatever. And I mean, the thing is that no one ever seems locally here to really take stock of, well, did we make any money? Did we sell more? Did we win more by hearts and minds?
Yes.
Did we win the election? No.
Did we get did we generate new users? Did we come up with do we have new customers?
Yeah,
Were we able to foster a sense of trust, a sense of
yeah.
brand loyalty?
So
Is that
I think from way back from as far as the 50s and 60s when we talk about um, retro advertising, retro advertising has always been we're announcing the product, the sale, the prices, whatever, and people will come back, right? That was how it was. Now, oh God, um, sorry, my bad.
now?
Um, Now we have a situation of of it's like I said before, the old ways of doing things won't work now because we have so many people, you know, creating situations where it's very hard to get out of the little clique that you're in. So if you're in the green network clique and all your friends are in the green network clique, and I'm pretty sure a lot of ad people or more experts in marketing or whatever will come and tell me, no, well, there are ways of getting around that, whatever. All right, cool. But right now, it's very, very difficult to 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 pull people out of their respective comfort zones. That's what I'm trying to say. So yeah, go ahead. Let me hear what you have to say.
Okay, so you're saying that it's difficult for people to pull out of their comfort zone. If we were to go back to what we had said with respect to the political campaign, there were a lot of people who are very much prepared to go out of their comfort zones and try something new? Is it that we have to get to a level of for want of a better word, do we have to get to a level of utter frustration that we say the hell with it, we'll try it anyway? Is
Mhm.
that what it is? Is that, does it have to come to that? Does it have to
Yeah.
come to that point? I mean, that is the thing that I'm curious about. Okay, earlier on you said about, you were talking about carnival. There are people who have a tabanka for carnival. There are people
Yeah.
who miss carnival, and that's understandable because this is like what, the second year running that we're not going to have a festival in this country, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
So I'm saying to you that you could be, if you have the means and you can fly out and enjoy it elsewhere, a carnival, a pre-London festival elsewhere. Like, say you could go to New Orleans. I don't know what the situation is in New Orleans, but you could go there, or you could try someplace else. You know, but the, the time now is so ripe for imagination and innovation. There must be a way to come up with a marketing strategy that once people get wind of it, they will say, hey, you know what? We could do this instead, or we could do that. We could have a kind of virtual mass. I don't know. Do it in such a way that you could convince somebody to turn up for work on Carnival Monday in a costume and work like that. Something, just an idea, so that you don't really lose the essence of having a time or enjoying yourself. You know what I mean? Something like that, and the potential is there to come up with something imaginative and
Yeah.
innovative. Unfortunately, um, once we do something like that, we're probably going to be shut down because the agency heads are going to say, "Well, this is not what the client wants, and if this is what the client doesn't want, then we'll just have to try go with the tried and true trusted method. End of story. To hell with you." So it's highly disconcerting. It's highly disconcerting. I think in this part of the world, we're not too keen on wanting to try new things until we get to a point where we see another alternative and we think it's starting to look good to us. And when it starts to look good to us, we're gonna gravitate towards that.
I
We're gonna
have a
try.
story. I
Yeah.
have a story which I think I related on a previous episode, but maybe I'll repeat it here. I think I can't remember mentioning it to somebody, but I'll repeat it again. Um, we were tasked with doing a carnival campaign for one of the big brands. I'm not going to say which one, but it's a tech brand, right? And in the meeting, the request came down from the highest authority that we had to use a new type of technology using, and in those days, this was new. Now you're doing it on Facebook all the time. The 360, you know what they call the 360 um, panoramic photo.
Yeah,
You know,
panoramic view. Yeah.
where you can move your phone around and see,
Right. Right. Yeah.
right?
See.
But in
Yeah.
those days, you couldn't do that at all. You had to have special equipment and whatever. And somehow somebody up the chain of command saw this piece of technology and said they wanted that to use. So this company in the States had a website where you shot a 360 panoramic view of a concert, right? From the point of view of the performer. So like the performer's on the stage and he's seeing the crowd. And there's a 360 of the whole crowd. You know, if you could imagine that, these big stadiums or whatever. And they would put that online so that if you saw yourself in the crowd, you could go and tag yourself and you share it with your friends on Twitter and Facebook or whatever. And people will be like, yeah, whatever, this is great. I could see you. You went to this concert. Way awesome, whatever. So we went hell hard in trying to find somebody who could shoot this 360-degree panoramic shot.
Right.
And I remember having a conversation with the man who had the equipment, Brian Smith, not Brian, so Brian Lewis, the architect. Wonderful
Right.
guy. Shout out to Brian Lewis. He's the dad of one of my good friends, Brett Lewis, who doesn't live in China anymore. He sold his business and now he's in England having a great old time working as a freelancer. So shout out to Brett. Brett's dad, Brian, had this 360 camera, which he shot some beautiful shots of Port of Spain and San Fernando and all these kind of. So I told him, well, this is what we need or whatever. And he's like, yeah, I don't think they're going to really like this idea, but here's the price and how much I'll charge and whatever. So we had everything lined up. We were ready to go. We had the guys from the people in the software doing it. We had Brian Lewis and, not Brian Lewis, we had it all set up and ready to go. We had all the costs ready.
Right.
And in the meeting where we were presenting what we were going to do as part of the campaign, one of the low-level executives said, well, you're not thinking that this is a bad idea. I'm like, no, what do you mean? He's like, yeah, I don't really think all they thought this through. Now, I know that the direction came from them to do this. So we just representing it back to them of how we're going to incorporate it with the campaign. He's like, and this is the early days of Facebook too. So Facebook tagging in photos had just kind of really started. He's like, I don't think people really want to be, seen in a fete or in a party. I'm like, what do you mean? He said, because you're going and take a photo of some man and a friend gonna tag him and he gonna see it and his wife gonna see him next woman. Nope, not happening. So the other executives, the higher ups in the meeting, started looking at each other, and it clicked to them that could happen to them. Because you saw it on their face. Yeah, boy, I can't take my outside man / woman to the fete. I go end up on the internet. Nah, squash this. You get rid of that. We don't want that again.
Yeah.
But they did do it. Later on, a couple of years later, I saw they did it for themselves without the tagging facility. So it just took them a little while to figure out that they didn't have to do the tagging thing. But I mean, it was useless by that point in time. I mean, by that time, Facebook had photo tagging. Trini Scene was tagging people left, right, and center in photos. You were seeing people was getting in trouble and all kind of thing. Actually, one year, a guy fell out, a photographer, one of the artists or graphic artists at Trinity.
Yeah.
Trinity, just for those who don't know, Trinity was a website. It still kind of is, but it's not the same. Trinity marketed itself as being the first social network for Trinidad, where they kind of went to parties and fetes and bars and all these places, events, took tons and tons of photos of people. This is before Facebook and into Facebook, and started posting it online for people to go and see. So you used to go on Trini Scene to go and see if you see yourself. And you used to take that photo and share it with your friends. Say, hey, look at you and me at this photo. And it was very, very innocent until somebody started seeing, well, I seen the ex-wife and whatever, blah, blah, blah. And so all that started to happen. But the more they did that, the more Trini Scene got popular. So it didn't really work out bad for them. But this guy, he went and he created a website called Anti-Trini Scene. I think it was called that. Or the Trini Scene Alternative or something like that. He took all the photos that were rejected and he put them up. And when I tell you, people started seeing themselves, because what Trini Scene was doing, the Trini Scene was taking photos, cleaning them up, removing people, changing. taking off blemishes, fixing up people's skin, making them look pretty. And this guy was taking the raw stuff and just throwing it on the internet. And it was like the early days of Facebook. You know, Facebook started with Hot or Not, right? That's how Facebook started. It
Yeah,
was
that's
called
okay.
Hot or Not, right?
Or not.
And
Yeah.
people were going, yeah, she ugly, she really ugly, he really ugly. Look that man, and it was all mass.
Yeah,
It was all
everything
mass,
everything was just a huge ball of confusion. That's true.
you know. Anyway, we strayed completely off the topic, but I just wanted to say that that you're spending all of this money, you're not really thinking through the whole idea. But Facebook came and kind of destroyed all this privacy and all. We all know the story of Facebook, how it came into the being. Um, but yeah, I mean, other than the political ad in 2020, the political sorry, the election in 2021, is there anything else advertising that stood out for you? I can't think of anything else other than the Christmas campaign for the that network.
And
Um,
that and that
I
is
can't
sad.
remember anything before that. I'm trying to
And that
remember if
is
there's
sad.
anything.
That is
What's
sad
the
because I'm still trying to figure out what what was so memorable in terms of the advertising for 2021. And my mind has registered a complete blank. I
when was
didn't.
the when was the balloon thing? That was this year. That was last year, or the year before, with the with the KFC and the balloon for Emancipation Day. What there was an Emancipation Day ad online. Was that 2020 or 2021? Every year we have some sort of emancipation brouhaha or some sort of special holiday brouhaha where the people have to retract the ad or pull it down. We didn't have anything like that in 2021, did we? Trying to remember.
Not really, not to my knowledge. I don't think we've ever had anything like that happening in 2021. What I remember, what I can recall, and this is something that the Juve debacle is something that has stayed with me
Right,
because
the Juve.
at,
Yeah, we talked about that in
at
the
least we
previous
had
episode.
at least we had an A-list celebrity in the form of Michael B. Jordan
Mm.
coming up with the actor, not the basketball player, coming up with this bold, new, innovative campaign, and our people just lost it
Mhm,
because
mhm, mhm,
they figured that how dare this man come along and culturally appropriate us because
mhm,
Juve is supposed to belong to us, the people of
mhm,
Trinidad
mhm,
and Tobago. And when you really think about it, that is partly true
mhm,
because the thing is that Juve is popular in other Caribbean territories as well. Trinidad
mhm,
doesn't have a monopoly on that kind of thing,
mhm.
but they didn't want to hear that.
Yeah.
They just kicked up a fuss, and you but
Yeah, they got it to
yeah,
change the name and all that. I mean, it's sad, but at the same time understandable.
yeah,
Speaking of which, we never talked about the Carib campaign, the relaunch of all the Carib brands. Carib is a big brand.
yes. Now
Now
that is
that
something.
happened just before Christmas because
This is for
it was
Christmas. They
kind of
relaunched the
close.
brand and everything. Yeah, I remember
But
that.
they got this celebrity to endorse them in Miami. It was a big deal.
DJ Khaled.
Um,
Yeah.
DJ Khaled, they got a write up in Ad Age, but
Yes.
it didn't really impact. Again, you know how much they probably paid DJ Khaled $1 million just to do that, right? Minimum,
Wow.
right? Okay, minimum. But again, I mean, it's still too early to tell. It's only January. This thing only really relaunched in what September. You can't
Yeah.
really say whether the campaign has been successful. But I've seen no follow up to that. You see,
Right.
so Christmas is
Right.
over, January is starting. Not really seeing any kind of stuff about
That
it. But
and that's sad, though because you would have expected a conglomerate like that to come up with a far more detailed, a far more precision based kind of campaign
yeah,
that would target the new look with respect to the beer
yeah,
in places where it treats people the most.
yeah.
But then again, you see, what you also need to take into consideration is because of what's going on around us. Social mobility is limited
Yeah,
in terms of moving about and interacting with people. So
yeah,
they have to try something new.
yeah.
Um,
But the DJ Khaled thing wasn't for us, you know. That was for
no, it
the
wasn't for
American
us.
market. That was
Yeah,
for the Miami market because they're trying to sell the product outside, which is a great idea. And I think they should be supported for that. But
but
again,
my problem,
it's yeah, right.
but my problem with the ad was that with the series of ads featuring DJ Khaled was that he was making references to things that are totally alien to us in terms of
Yeah,
Trinidad and Tobago society. I think he was
yeah,
talking about like jerk chicken and things like that. And that is only possible, that applies to Jamaica, not to Trinidad and Tobago. And it
mm,
kind of reinforces the wrong assumption that when you say that you come from the Caribbean, people will ask you, well, what part of Jamaica are you from?
yeah,
Because you
yeah.
know what, as far as the Americans are concerned, and I now look, I love my American people. Don't get me wrong. I love my American brothers and sisters. But when it comes to geography, you guys suck. Um, you you come from the West,
Yeah,
you come from the Caribbean,
sorry, yeah.
but,
No
the,
worries.
but
The English
yeah,
people too. The English people
yeah.
didn't even know we were colonies. We're like, we had colonies. What?
Oh my goodness, that must have been. I don't even want to know what that was about. I don't even want to know what that was about. But yeah, and I, from an aesthetic perspective, once they came up with the labels and everything and the cans for carom and everything, I looked at it and I thought, well, this isn't bad. This isn't bad at all. And then they came up with it with a totally different. Here's the thing: once they came up with an entirely different brand, the Carib Blue, I think it's called.
Yeah,
There are people in one camp who absolutely love it, and then
yeah,
there are people in another camp who absolutely do not love it. They
yeah.
loathe it tremendously.
Again,
You know,
it's a polarization of people because there are people who love Karen and there are people who love Stag, and the two of them fight each other all the time. But it's coming from the same company, you
but it's coming from the
jackasses,
same company.
you idiots, morons. What is it from Blazing Saddles? You know, morons.
Yeah, they are the common clay of the new West. You know, morons. But I mean, I, it's something but the polarization that you keep talking about, I think that's something that is this is something that we've had to deal with from day one. Uh, to try something new, I think certain conditions have to take place in order for people to say, well, you know what, we've had enough of this brand. We need to try something new. And I think one of the variables that we need to that I think one of the indispensable conditions is that people have quite simply had enough of the brand. They've had brand fatigue and they want to try something new. And it's based on the premise that this brand did not deliver for whatever reason it was, for whatever reason. Now, keep in mind that there are people who are going to stick with their brand no matter what.
Yeah,
I mean, it could be the suckiest bar of soap in the world in that you can use it and you still smell like a ram goat, but they're going to stick with it anyway. Because why? Because their father used the soap, their mother used the soap before, and it worked for them. It's got to work for me. But as we all know, that's not how it works. That's not how any of this works. Um, if you can get company A to make more money than company B, you need to find out why. You need to conduct postmortems. If I happen to be the CEO of a company that makes cars, and for some reason, people are gravitating towards my competitors' vehicles. They prefer their vehicles to mine. And when they tell you what it is that they love about the other guy's vehicles, I want to know why too. So how do we look at ourselves objectively and see what we can do to improve? You know, that's the problem. That's the challenge right there.
I
We and we. Mhm.
I want to look forward to this year. I want to say, I mean, we can't predict. We certainly didn't predict what was going to happen in 2020, 2021.
No,
So
we didn't.
predicting out is completely out of the way.
Yeah.
And this is our first ever episode in the beginning of the year. So we don't want to start a trend of saying we're going to predict them,
Yeah.
But the trends right now, like we were discussing before we started the show, the trend seems to be that everybody's trying to get on board of their own personal individual brand.
Right.
And what I want to do is I want to bring one of my friends, Jamila Bannister, because that's her thing for personal branding, on to kind of talk more about that in some of the coming episodes. Because one of the trends I think is happening is, or one of the trends I think a lot of the people are seeing is that they're moving from being influencers and having personal brands to becoming more solidified as a brand. So you're having people who are reaching the level of, well, I'm no longer Ian, I'm Ian the brand, and whether or not that's true or not is irrelevant to them. That's how they see themselves, which is a trend that has been developing since Kim Kardashian exposed herself for everybody to see. On a side note, I finally got a chance to sit down over the Christmas vacation and watch The People versus O.J. Simpson. And it never occurred to me that nobody knew who this Kardashian guy was.
Robert Kardashian.
Robert Kardashian was a nobody. I mean, he was an influential lawyer, but he was retired. And suddenly he becomes famous, and his family became famous. And then the kids go and do what they did, which we will not get into because it's a PG-13 show.
It's very much PG-13 show, yeah.
But the thing is that trend has continued, up until where everybody wants to be the next this or that or whatever. And I think it's just going to get, I wouldn't call it worse, it's just going to get more solidified, where people are going to start being less associated with a group think and more in an individual thing. So whether that has happened already, I guess maybe it has. I'm not a big man to go and follow all of these influencers, and that's not who I am. I'm still old school advertising. But there are people who are starting companies to kind of represent these influencers as influencers. It's a very interesting paradigm that's developing or has developed. And I think that's just going to continue this year. Whether we have a giant, knock wood, we don't have any kind of major upheaval, something bad is like, Titanic level sinking set of thing that goes on, hopefully we don't have that kind of stuff.
Let's
pretty much going to stay the course of, we are working from home. We are all individuals sitting down home, but we are all interacting through social media.
I'm scratching too.
John?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Kind of disappeared there.
No, I'm still here. Okay. I'm still here. Yeah.
All right. So we wanna wrap this up because we've talked like a long time and we've meandered and weaved around and we've talked absolutely rubbish.
Be gentle with us. Be gentle with us. It's our first episode for the year.
But people are like, what the? Why am I listening to this? All you guys, F you, delete, unsubscribe. Yeah, okay, cool. We'll see you later, alligator. We love you all. We love you all. We are definitely going to be doing some specific things. We have some plans. But again, we always ask for your contributions, whether it be monetary or idea.
Whether it's monetary or you have a creative idea. And listen, if you think for whatever reason that we're talking a pile of unmitigated horse shit, you can always come on and tell us why we're talking a bunch of horse shit. And we'll be more than happy to have you so you can have a voice and tell us. So, nothing is out of
down below in the description is links to our Twitter. You could get Jared on Twitter. You could get me on Instagram.
But it's one word. follow you back.
You could probably the fastest way to get to me is to email me, ian@redesigns.pro, which is linked down in the description, as well as subscribe to us on YouTube. Now, for those of you now joining us for the first time, we like you to subscribe to our podcast on Apple and Spotify, whichever you prefer, or any of the other podcast, things. But we release this episode a week later on YouTube. So if you want to subscribe to us on YouTube and you just like to listen to us over time, no problem. We put it up on YouTube a week later. So if you want to go to YouTube and see our past episodes, they're all there. Just at first, but that's not important right now. And of course, give us a little like and a share, and we'll be appreciative of that. We had our 2021 countdown in December, and our number one was, what was the number one show? The Halloween special. That was our number one
Halloween
show.
special. There you go.
Yeah, the stories that made up the scary stories.
Scary stories, yeah.
Right. So, Jared, we will do this next week. And I hope
hopefully, yes.
Join us next week.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for listening.
Thank you for listening. Thank you. We appreciate it. Yes.
Is there anything else you want? Yeah, we usually define something at the end of the show. What are we defining? We already defined to banker. What are we defining today?
What are we defining today? What are we defining today? What are we defining today? Well, okay. We came up with the concept of groupthink. And
now, what is groupthink?
What is groupthink? Okay, well, groupthink, if memory serves me right, is when you have a bunch of people committed to a particular idea or ideal, and it's very difficult to rouse people out of that kind of mind conditioning, that kind of mental conditioning. That I think that as clumsy as that was, that's the best definition of groupthink I can think of.
I can work with that. But that's not important right now.
That's not important right now. No, it's not.
All right, people. See you all later and have a creative week. Have a creative week. Have a good week, John. Stay safe.
You too. You stay safe too.
All right.